6 days of pure magic. Human Design Rave Festival 2024.
Hello, hello, and welcome to Human Design Rave Festival. So today we have Peter Schöeber with us, and he's going to answer some of our questions as you, Peter, are going to participate in the online version of the festival.
Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, Veronica, you want to ask?
So, what would you like to hear? What would you like to know?
Well, maybe we dive right into the topic, and it's very yummy. It's how to survive 2027. So why would we need surviving it?
Yeah, by the way, that is not the title I chose, but it is no problem, because my topic would be a little bit more before. How to survive 2027 is maybe a topic, but first we have to survive till 2027. And that may not be as easy as we may expect. So my topic is more to focus on the coming years till 2027, but in a different way. Some of you may know my transit forecast. And in the transit forecast, okay, we look what is coming in the transit field, and we try to understand what could that mean on the collective level, and what would it mean on the personal level, what to be, let's say, aware of, what to take care of, this kind of stuff. That the weather forecast, our famous weather forecast. This perspective will be a little bit different. First of all, it is not focused on a relatively small time frame like 3 months. It is focused on, let's say, 4 years, 3 years, 4 years. So it is a broader frame. And then it will be focusing on what you have to confront as an individual. That will not be an attempt to make a prognosis on what will happen in the Ukraine, or what will happen in Israel, or what will happen, I don't know where, in the US. This is also very interesting, but this is not our topic. The topic will be strictly individual. What do you have to expect depending from your body graph? What are the topics you personally will have to confront? And what is, let's say, from our understanding of human design, the recommendation how to handle that? So this is the idea of this offer, and I'm really looking forward to that, because actually it is the most senseful perspective. As fascinating as it is to have an educated guess of what will happen in the collective, that can be right or wrong, or half right or half wrong, but what we have to confront, given our specific activations in the body graph, that is for sure. That is absolutely for sure. And there are reliable recommendations one can give based on the understanding of gates and channels.
We're really looking forward to that lecture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, me too.
And actually, you have also very interesting life, and the way you met human design was also super interesting, because it was meant to happen. You were Ra was sleeping in the same house as you lived, right?
Yes. He lived there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Could you tell us something more about that story?
Yeah.
Look, I was happening at that time. I was shortly before my Uranus opposition. I had worked a lot. I have had make, of course, a lot of mistakes. I'm a 3/5. And my notes also are 3/5. And I was having a bookstore in Vienna, being focused on esoterics and therapy. I myself had an education, a 10-year education with a North American shaman, and was at that time engaged in martial arts. I was training martial arts also for 10 more years, but at another time frame. And I was looking for connections between different esoteric systems. And so far that had led me to the tarot, because the tarot is also a working synthesis of different systems. And there was a kind of preamble to human design. Something like 4 years before I met Ra, I met a druid who demonstrated to me that whatever I did so far was totally superficial. It was really a shock. And then I decided, okay, there will be one thing in my life I will do not superficial. And then for 3 years, each day at 4 o'clock in the morning, I went up and I had my 3 hours of studying the tarot, which includes the practical way of studying that. And after these 3 years, I was writing all of that. And within 2 weeks, I had a publisher who published the book, and it was on the market for 18 years. And this was actually, without my knowing, of course, this was my preparation. Because that was in the spring of 1992, and in the autumn of 1992, I met Ra. And at that time, the first thing if somebody introduced you human design, and obviously nobody actually except Ra introduced human design, it was like, it's a synthesis. It's a synthesis of astrology and astronomy. And it's the I Ching and the chakras and this kind of stuff. And it was clear for me that some connection must exist. But let's say I could not go further than to the tarot myself. So I definitely was curious. And then I had my reading, and you cannot imagine the reading at that time was, let's say, if I'm polite, I would say very elementary. It was a little bit about the gates. No, it was a little bit about the centers. It was about the doers and the non-doers, the emotional and the not emotional, and the line texts of the first line text of the refugee. So very rudimentary. And okay, I am a generator with a totally open throat and all 4 motors defined. All my life, I tried to be a manifestor. I had beautiful projects and a lot of energy, and I started them, and then I met the resistance, and it didn't work, and I got in a bad mood, and you know the story, the classic story. And I was hoping from the reading, because Ra at least looked interesting, that guy looked really interesting, that he would basically tell me, you know, of course you are the perfect manifestor in our language, but you have made a little mistake there. If you correct that little mistake, everything will be fine. And then this guy tells me, waiting is good for you. I would have liked to spit in his face. It was the last thing I wanted to hear. And I mean, I was really not very aware. I mean, it's a long time ago. But even at that time, I realized if I have such a strong response, there is some truth to it. So I started my process in a very simple way. I stopped initiating, nothing more. I just stopped initiating. And I slowed down. And obviously, out of that, immediately, nothing changed in my life. Everything was as before, but it felt totally differently because the resistance was gone. I was not ongoingly running against the invisible wall. I was just living in my life. And when I was driving from my home to my office, to my bookstore, normally it was like not longer than 30 minutes. And then I was driving like, not earlier than 30 minutes. And they arrived totally relaxed 27 minutes later. You know? And these were these experiences that started my process. And they had their own, let's say, convincing quality. And I always have been a seeker of knowledge, obviously, before as well. So then the next year I made the analyst education that I was teaching in Germany. And in 1959, when there was the first teacher seminar in Ibiza, obviously I also was there. And from that time on, I started to work, let's say, also directed to the outside.
Very nice story.
Yeah. Life has interesting stories to offer.
Yeah. I loved what you said. It cannot, because a lot of people think like human design will, like astrology, try to outguess the future and exactly what happens. And it's life is always so surprising. You can never outguess what will happen. That's what strategy and authority is all about. You cannot strategize life. It's just always gonna surprise you in its ways, how things develop and mutate.
Yeah. In the end, you don't see it coming. I mean, the transpersonal ones see it a little bit more coming, but in the end, the really important stuff is always a surprise.
Oh, yeah, it is. You know, I have a very simple, actually, question because in my personal experience, I have every time when I open the official page and I read that human design is a system that is a synthesis of this and that, there is something in me that always resists this phrase, this sentence. And you working from the very beginning, from the source of the system, and now that I'm discovering that you are also in tarot, and Ra was describing that the tarot was kind of very close to getting into the pantheon, yeah, of the languages, but it didn't because of the sequence challenge. Do you really see it as a synthesis of all these systems still, or it's more of absolutely new frequency and absolutely new knowledge that just uses the previous systems as a foundation, as a language? And is there any essential difference for you in these?
Yeah, that is a good question. There is, apart from any details, there is a very important difference, because as far as I'm concerned, in the past, there was no clear definition of what we would call correctness. In the past, you could say you should be something like a good human being. Yeah. You should follow your conscience, your conscience, or you shouldn't do any bad thing. But it was never defined what a good or a bad thing is. And in my understanding, this, let's say, the naive assumption of good and bad is not very helpful. Sometimes we are designed to do something that may look very bad, but it is still fulfilling our purpose. And in other moments, we may do almost something very heroic, let's say something very selfless, and it may fulfill our purpose. And this is not something you can judge by mind. And everything I know, at least as systems they have been passed on in an educated way, was based on understanding by mind. So you try to understand what is to be good or to be bad and all of that stuff. And this is just not enough. That is remaining in the seven-centered world, maybe with best intentions, but it does not tap the potential of the nine-centered being. Because this potential is to be in the right place for yourself and at the same time for the whole. And if you become a pure expression of life, you become very powerful because life is supporting you. And there is no contradiction. there is no sacrifice. You just do what is right for you, and it's also right for the whole. And this is I think, a very, very rare experience. I mean, looking historically at being human. So this is for me, and of course that human design offers a technology that is so simple that it works even in the sleeping state. I mean, the normal human being is just sleeping. And if you are sleeping and you are not aware that you are sleeping, there is just no chance. What could happen? There is no chance. And human design with strategy and authority can even reach you in your deepest sleep. And even in that state, you can follow strategy and authority. You have no idea what it really is. You do not really understand what it is, but that is not important. You just can follow it. It's so simple. You can follow it. And by following it, it starts to lead you somewhere where, let's say, the dawning of awareness can take place. And this is really the miracle. There have been awakened people all along the way in history. It's not like Rise the first one or the last one. But they couldn't pass on. They had their own achievements. They had their own experiences that were the gurus. You sit in the aura of the guru because you can feel something. But it was not able to pass on how they accessed something. And human design gives you a key that is so simple. Everybody can follow that. Everybody. Yeah. And it will, over time, lead to transcendence. And therefore, it is really the tool of our time. Yeah. There is so our, how shall I say, our level of the education of the heart is so low that only the most primitive tools can work. We are on the deepest point in the darkness, and we need a tool that is suited for this position.
Wow, you sound very optimistic for me, saying that we are already in the darkness. I'm a pessimist. And
we have a saying in German, schlimmer geht immer, meaning it always could become worse.
yes.
Let's say, I would say we are pretty close. We are pretty close to the turn point, I would say. We'll see. Obviously, we will see. But this is also, you know, if you have your orientation, what should you be afraid of? I mean, really, I had for some days ago, I had a seminar with one of my groups in Germany. And there's a lady, she's actually from Russia, but living since a long time in Germany. And she has relatives in Israel. A very common story. And she visited them. And you know, when she came back from that visit, on the 6th of October. On the 6th of October, she went back from Israel to Germany. And this is how life is guiding you if you are on your trajectory. You are just going back one day earlier.
wow. Wow, this is so beautiful what you are mentioning. And you know, when I received my first reading, it was very logical, very schematic, and I was a hippie, you know, living in a mountain and in the yurt and having all that comes with it, you know, actually in Israel. And deep after years in India and all of that. And I remember what came out of me is, okay, but where is the heart in this teaching? Show me the heart in this teaching. And the person could not really answer to me, where is the heart? And now that you are bringing this topic, it's, first of all, thank you so much for bringing this, because it's really something that is not obvious also, and you have to come to this system already advanced enough to see the simplicity in that diversity, which is the heart. And the G center, it is the center and is geometrically even in the center. And it's not really the heart, but it is a magnetic monopole. And yeah, so I want to thank you for really speaking this. I think it's very important also in the system generally to talk about humanness and the
Mm,
heart-centeredness,
mm, mm,
um,
mm, mm.
because in the end, that's about it, isn't it? It's about being human.
Now, look, a system must be logical somehow. And this is necessary and helpful. At the same time, we have a mind that always tries to get hold of everything. And a logical system can be abused by the mind in the coldest and merciless way. I have seen that many, many times when people trying to be in human design, I would say, were then using human design to explain their partner because why they are a rotten being, you know, why they are a failure, why they are unbearable. And this is one of the dangers that are there, that the mind gets hold of the knowledge of human design and abuses that in order to play its own games. And so you need not only understanding is very helpful, but you need understanding ideally with love, but let's not be too demanding. Understanding in a benevolent way, understanding in a supporting way. Yeah, okay. So like, you try me, not you, but as an example, you try to tell me what I should do. You are a projector. You are so much hoping that I would see you. You are just choosing not, let's say, the best way to do that. I understood, but could you ask me a generator question, please? Yeah. So the understanding can be so helpful, so liberating, and also support the mutual forgiving of our shortcomings by type. Or it could be like a sword, punishing the other one for who he is, yeah, in his not full development of glory. So it is the attitude. The heart is in the attitude. That is the point. That you are, let's say, friendly supportive or friendly open. And the beautiful thing is, only then you can be friendly open to yourself. You always get what you deserve. It always comes back to you. So you are friendly open to the other, the life will be friendly open to you. And you are negatively judgmental, suppressing to the other, watch what life will bring to you. In the end, we have to understand it's all about us. What you have inside, you will meet outside. It is really the deepest truth. And not always easy to recognize, I know. But this is the way to liberation, the only way to liberation. Being myself and understanding that everything I meet is a mirror of myself. And then you go and you will see how far you can.
I really like the combination of what you shared, because on one hand, we're talking about being gentle to yourself and to others, and on the other hand, we're talking about the absence of moral in human design, which for me is super important. There is no positive and negative. They can be both, even in any situation. So again, it's something
Enlightened
like a
egoist.
synthesis.
Yeah, moral is exactly the opposite. Moral is the assumption that there is one eternal rule that is right every time, under all circumstances, for all people. Yeah, it is, yeah, like written in stone. You should not kill. And life is so different. Really? Never, under no circumstances? Never, never, never? No matter what? So this is what you have in gate 23, the splitting apart, greetings from Uranus. That this is the starting of the knowing that life is only consisting about in exceptions. There is the huge statue of the moral law, but the true life is always an exception. There's always something different. And in the end, there is only me in the now. There isn't anything else. It's me in the now. And this is absolutely unique. It also could be true for somebody else in 2 days, in 20 years, what I have no idea. But I can only be sure about that it is true for me in the now. Everything else is fantasy. And so therefore, moral, I would say, is a very early attempt to find a good way, but it's totally outdated. It's just technology from the Stone Age.
That just explained the difference between 7 and 9 centered attitude.
Yeah. Now, and it is, of course, moral, if you can, let's say, bow yourself to that, it makes life incredibly simple. This is the seduction in that. We have this rule, you follow that rule, everything's fine. It's really easy. You do not need to make decision. And decision making is really difficult, don't we know that? Because you have responsibility if you make a decision. If it goes wrong, it's not the government, it's not the weather, it's not your parents, it's you. And each decision making demands a sacrifice. We are always talking about the sacrifice in the tribe and that we have to overcome that, and that's true. But each true decision is a sacrifice, because it means for what you get, you have to sacrifice something else. And this is what people are most afraid of. That is, in my opinion, the greatest obstacle in the deconditioning process. That it's so much more cozy to hand over the responsibility to somebody else. And then, in case it should go wrong, and of course it will go wrong, then you have somebody you can blame for. No. To be yourself is to be responsible and to look into the eyes of consequences. And the consequences can be pretty demanding.
You have no idea how right are those words for a situation we just had just before our meeting.
Yeah. There is,
just like for any other.
Sometimes there is intuition, you know. I have the 57 3 times, so maybe there is some intuition. But on the other hand, not to make it too melancholic, even if you have the total fuck up, if it was your fuck up, it will not hurt you. It may be challenging, it may cost you something, whatever. Life is not always sugar, but it's still your life. And as long as it is my life, I'm made for that and I can handle it. The real trouble is if I lose my own track, then I'm, how shall I say it, then I'm in the territory I do not belong to. And then it gets, how shall I say, it has some senselessness. If it's not my life, what is it good for? This is a very important difference. And by the way, this is exactly what we will need for the coming years. The understanding that it will not be sugar. At least not always, definitely not. I mean, I have a very good life. I cannot complain. I have a totally good life. And still I'm influenced, obviously, by everything that's going on. Talking about Israeli, the son of my wife is serving in the Israeli army. So you can, no matter, somehow you always have a connection to what's really going on and where the real heavy stuff is going on. We are not isolated. And I still have my life. And I still can enjoy my life. And I do enjoy my life. Yeah, that Jesus has died for me does not stop me from having my joy in life. But I can only have this joy in my life. If it is a borrowed one, once just my mind has tried to create, it will not work.
Yeah, we're so connected. I live in the mountain and I'm really so far from civilization. And at some point I had the illusion, yeah, like here nobody can influence, but it's totally an illusion, totally an illusion.
And then your electricity goes off, you don't have internet for 2 days, and no light, and then you have to go to town, and here you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to know that we're all connected, and at the same time, it's you're always traveling alone in space, in a way, meeting others, but you're always alone there through your passenger window.
Yeah. But we can at least talk to each other.
Yeah.
Especially when we have a common language that we share that is beyond the actual country territory languages, but when we can share the language of keynoting, which is human design language, I personally believe that that's the biggest gift, is to be able to connect to other people through this language. You know, for myself, and I guess for Veronica as well, and that's actually the main reason why we create this festival, is that we are both analysts. We have our daily practice with serving people who come for readings, giving readings, people who come for courses, teaching courses. But this everyday communication through human design language, it's not something given, it's not something that happens often. And every time it does, it's wow. I mean, for me, meeting my teachers, I've been lucky to spend some time with Nisark, some time with Jenny, my teacher from Kiev, with Teresa in Vienna, with Jakub in Prague, and with few more teachers that I meet on the way, and just in the random conversations use the keynoting. It's really wow. For me, just imagining the world being like that, even though we know it's impossible, but being like that, it would probably eliminate every war, or at least make it least destructive, because some of this 2838, the struggle is still there. It's part of the body graph. The frictions are part of the body graph. The crisis is part. It's part, but it could make this thing so much softer and real, going straight to the core, to the point. So yeah, it's let's see how it goes, and hopefully when we meet at the festival, we will also create both online and live space for a real communication that's beyond just workshops or lectures, when we can just exchange this language.
Yes, actually, normally if you meet offline, of course, it's one of the most precious things that you can have. The talk in the aperitif, the talk in the break. That is the jewel. That is the true jewel. Well, for some technical reasons, when when there is the Rev New Year, we are always in some unpredictable part of the world because we are following some cosmic order in that. So therefore, it's very unlikely that exactly at that time we are able to come to where the place is, that festival is taking place. So it's not like I like to travel, and we both like to travel very much, and we do. So, but this is just a time where it's not possible for us to go to. We prefer to go to a specific place that is different from year to year, and so therefore we have to, let's say, reduce ourselves to online.
But we might be making another edition of the festival, and then we can invite you again, maybe in summer.
In summer, I have a little bit of my own in Austria. Just very, not a real festival. It's just, I have a lot of people studying with me, mostly online, of course. And once a year, I provide an opportunity for an offline meeting. And as Austria is my home country, I usually do it there. So this is okay. If you ever feel like making a festival in Austria, then I'm in the boat.
So guys, if you want to meet Peter live, Austria is the place to go.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, we are almost neighbors. You know, I'm in Slovakia. It's just less than an hour from Vienna.
That is more or less the same. I mean, without any disrespect, but it is really sharing a lot of history and culture and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Sofia actually has a lot of Austrian architecture. So Sofia a little bit reminds Vienna.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Actually, yeah.
I've never been there. So I'm looking forward. One day we may, but not this time.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for everything you shared. It was amazing. I really could feel through the neutrino the energy and connectedness.
Yeah, thank you for a very pleasant meeting. I wish you a lot of joy and success with your project. And we'll see each other in January.
Yes. Yay. And thank you so much for bringing the topic that is so vulnerable, I think. Talking about things that are maybe not logical, but on the one hand, but on the other hand, they're very sober and very grounding. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to hear what you have to say and to connect to it, and yeah, to be conditioned with the right kind of frequency. That's what we are doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I will do my best.
Yeah.
Great.
Пока, пока.
Пока, пока.
Пока, пока. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Get your tickets today. See you soon.